Hello there everyone and welcome to John Drinks, the channel where I, John, have a drink. And today we have a requested bottle. I was kind of struggling for what I wanted to do for this video, what I wanted to record, so I went over to my Patreon and I was like, hey, these are the two things I'm thinking of filming, pick one for me would you? And they ended up picking this one, so here we are. This is a Dailuaine. It's a Dailuaine that I've had my eye on for a while. It's a Dailuaine, I've actually mentioned it on the channel previously. This is an independent bottling, because I think I'm right in saying the only official bottling is the flora and fauna. Because, well, we'll be getting into the purposes of this distillery quite shortly. But yeah, this is from Carn. They are independent bottlers that we have not covered on the channel before, because there's a lot of independent bottlers and, you know, finite resources, finite money, to be fair. So, Carn, they're independent bottlers, and they do what independent bottlers do. They go to distilleries and they go, hey, what you got? And they're like, yeah, we've got some of this and some of that. And they're like, let's give them a go. And they do, and they go, yeah, okay, I'll take one of those and maybe that one. And then they bottle it, and then they tend, in fact, pretty... yeah, you know what, I'll nail my colours to it and say that pretty much universally they treat the liquid right, as in they don't tend to dilute past 46%. I do believe there are a couple of 43s out there, not counting cast strength like 35-year-olds where it's just evaporation. Or cast strength in some cases. 10 not to colour, 10 not to chill filter. I'm erring on the side of caution, just in case there is like an absolute stonker out there that I'm completely forgetting about. But I'm pretty sure that sort of the point of independent bottlers is to kind of, for me anyway, is to give you an opportunity to try a distillate outside of the house style, particularly when the house style is quite repressive or I would consider damaging to the distillery. There's some classics out there, but they tend to go for a fortune when they are independent bottlings, I think because A, they can make the money off the name, and B, they don't want to encourage too many people drinking it, possibly because then they realise, oh, actually, the guys that are bottling it are doing something to it that ain't working. And there's a few examples I tend to bring up, but hey, I won't slut shame straight away. We'll maybe save that for February. Maybe do February 14th. Yeah, Valentine's Day video. These are the tarts of the whiskey world. Anyway, no, because it would just be me. This is a Dailuaine. Have I mentioned that already? I've been looking forward to this one for a while because I'm a sucker for a Sauternes finish. This has been finished in Sauternes. I was eyeing up for a while, held off pulling the trigger until one day I was like, okay, tip's been good this week, to hell with it, let's get a bottle. So I got a bottle, hence why there's a bottle of it here. See how that works? In fact, it's not often that I actually show off the bottle. I tend to go kind of like samples these days because, I mean, to be fair, if I had to buy a bottle every time, that would be a nightmare. I mean, you know, there's a fair few influencers out there that get free bottles of stuff. Genuinely, somebody mentioned this to me the other day. It's like, well, maybe you're like, you know, if you just, you know, focused on being a bit more of an Instagram star or something, you know, maybe you'd like get some more stuff thrown at you. I'm like, I don't have any room for it at this stage. That's bragging, really, isn't it? You know, oh, what's your problem? Oh, I've got too much booze on the shelves. Oh, woe is me. But I don't, you know, I mean, normally what would have happened is I would have, you know, let other people try it. You know, I'd have had people round or taken it round to house parties and stuff like that, and been like, hey, yeah, have some whiskey, you know, because I'm drowning in the stuff. You know, because it's worth sharing. Finally, there was a YouTube channel out there that talked about sharing whiskey. Nothing's coming to mind. Somebody should do that. So I was quite looking forward to opening this up. I'm tangents really off the rails at the minute. My brain's not really working today. I've only had 3 coffees. Still in 2012. Bought in 2021. So yeah, you know, 9 years. I don't have a huge amount to say about this, do I? You might have noticed that already. It's sparse on details. Because there's not a huge amount to say. I mean, it gives you the basics, cast type, Sauterne finish, space side, bottles 816, 9 years old, bottled in 2021, non-chill filtered, no added colour. And on the back, not really anything. It gives you some tasting notes. Rosewater and bergamot freshness, followed by chocolate hazelnuts. I love the sound of that. So when I say I've not been getting on with this whiskey too much, yeah, a bit of a disappointment, this one so far. But I've deliberately held off for about a month now. Took a drag out, took a couple of drags out, in fact. Let some air get into it. Sometimes that's what happens with these whiskies. We'll be getting back onto that shortly. I've got a dram of it. Just here. This is a rambly video, isn't it? This is all over the place. There was also a point that I was going to make about something, and I had it in my head, and then I hit record, and it was important. I'm sure it was important. I've got 3 weeks to live. No, it wasn't that. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, we're going to fire into this, but I thought we should learn a little bit about the distillery. Now then, I could regurgitate Wikipedia to you. However, back in my day, we used to have these things called books. They still exist. I don't know why I'm sounding like a Tory right now. Tory? Bloody hell. What just happened to me? Anyway, so this is a book. It's called The Whiskipedia. It's by Charles McLean. He is a fantastic whiskey writer. I don't know how else to describe him. If you haven't come across his works already, then do. Just buy a copy. Seriously. This is so much that you could possibly want to know about whiskey, just in general. He tends to update these. I don't know, actually, if he's done a 2022 version, because obviously there's been a lot of new distilleries spring up. You won't see things like Nutnian and Lindors and Loch Lyan here, despite it being a new and updated edition, because this one's from 2014. Hardly the wilderness years, but, it's a touch dated. But one of the good things about that, seeing as we're talking, you get a snapshot. So I will sometimes go to like secondhand bookshops because they're 10 a penny in Edinburgh, and I'll look out for old whiskey guides. There's a St. Michael's one from Marks and Spencer's from the 90s and stuff like that, and you get a snapshot of what the whiskey scene was like in that specific moment in time. Just recently bought another one, actually. It's the, oh no, what's it called? I'm going to have to go get it, because my mind's it's just not working right now. Hold on. Here it is. It's called The Philosophy of Whiskey. I don't know how I forgot that. It's by a man called Billy Abbott, and I do believe it's his first publication. This is a snapshot as to sort of the current whiskey scene. It's quite general. It's quite a easygoing kind of my first whiskey book sort of a thing. But what I do really like about this one, actually, seeing as we're talking about it, let's find a good example. Where have they all gone? Oh no. So there we go. Ain't that beautiful? There's a lot of archive material from the British Library in here relating to whiskey ephemera. Like there's little diagrams here. Old adverts that you'd kind of see on maybe like an old pub mirror and stuff like that. It's a Johnny Walker advert there for Black Label, I believe. It is a safe rule to follow that a hotel which discriminates as to the quality of its whiskey will always give satisfaction. Every drop of Johnny Walker Black Label is over 12 years old. Back when age statements and quality were intertwined with one another. Yeah. I've been very slowly dipping into this book. I know a few of my contemporaries have basically read it in one sitting. I need a new job because I don't have time for anything these days, it seems. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying this one. I did also pick up The Philosophy of Gin because I'm not a one-trick pony. I like to keep my options open just in case the winds change or something, I suppose. Yeah, fantastic book. Love the colour orange, but that wasn't what we were talking about. We were talking about this. I was actually going to read out part of the entry for Dailuaine from this book, Wikipedia. If you don't have a copy, go and buy one. Seriously, you can get a second-hand copy if you want off of like A-Books or something like that. 2 issues of that. One, the author doesn't get a penny from it because it's a second-hand sale, and 2, it will be a little bit dated. So just bear that in mind. If you can pick up a new copy, do it. Yeah, and you know, to my understanding, this guy's like completely uncontroversial. It's not like, you know, the Brewdog nonsense that's going on at the minute. James Watts, he's into a fair bit of hot water from a HR standpoint at the moment. If you're not familiar with that story, by the way, I won't go into it now. Follow an Instagram account called British Beer Girl. Used to go to university with her, and she has been making sure that the world is well aware of the ins and outs of the shenanigans going on with that ongoing bullying, I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it. So, yeah, go follow that. Although, if you do, be on your best behaviour. I don't want to hear Siobhan coming back to me and being like, oh, some of your followers have been along and they've been dicks. If I'm sending you over to somebody else's house, you're going to be on your best behaviour. Is that clear? Good. Right. Dailuaine. The distillery was built in 1851 by William Mackenzie in a small wooded glen a mile off the main road, at the other northern end of Ballindalloch Estate from Cragganmore. Access to market was given a terrific boost 12 years later by the arrival of the Speyside Railway on the opposite bank of the river, at Carn, connected by a road bridge. Mackenzie Company became a limited company in 1890 and merged with Talisker to form Dailuaine Talisker Distilleries Limited in 1898. By this time, the business was in the hands of Mackenzie's son Thomas, who had built Imperial Distillery the previous year. When Thomas died without heirs in 1915, Dailuaine Talisker was bought by its principal customers, Walkers, Dewars, WP, Lowry and DCI. What a name. A fire destroyed much of the property in 1917 and it was rebuilt. This distillery has been destroyed and rebuilt I want to say at least 2 times, possibly 3. It's not had the best of luck, Dailuaine, God bless it. Major reconstruction took place in 1959 to 60 when the floor maltings were converted into a Saladin box system. The number of stills went up from 4 to 6 and mechanical coal stoking was introduced. A dark grains plant was also installed at this time. Malting on site remained until 1983. Always designed to be a blending whisky, Dailuaine was not bottled as a single by its owners until 1991. Talking a little bit about pagoda roofs and other bits and pieces. So yeah, that's a summary. I've obviously not read the entire thing out verbatim because, you know, I don't want to... I mean, I'm not pretending it's my own words, but you understand what I'm saying. So that's a little bit of context about the distillery. It's interesting that they know that it was designed as a blending whisky. There are whiskies out there, there are distilleries out there, rather I should say, where their sole purpose is for blends. Because you have to remember, in most cases actually, blends are a high volume product. They're for a mass market, they're intended for mixing. They're not usually meant for drinking neat, although that's changing, and good, frankly, good. But yeah, it's sort of been there to fulfill a need in the past. Dailuaine, despite this, does have its fans. I think most distilleries have their fans, to be fair. You know, there's always going to be somebody, with the possible exception to Lockdo, that's going to kind of be batting for a particular expression, a particular distillery. You know, I myself, a noted fan of Bladnoch and Lindors. You know, I'm quite a fan of my Lowlands. You know, there are staunch Lafroigians out there. I've met people that will die on the hill of Arran. You know, good, to be honest, you know, because every distillery, it needs its fans, you know. We should get on with the whiskey now, because that's how this is supposed to work. So I think I've given this enough airing time. Now, I haven't had this in over 2 weeks now, so I've been giving it plenty of oxidising time. I don't know if that'll have changed it much or not. Okay. Straight off the nose, there's like a bright apples, kind of Chardonnay wine, kind of an aroma. It's hefty, kind of fresh apple and melon with a glass of white wine on the side. Kind of a. It's fruity, a little honeyed. The sweetness is quite low-key, especially obviously considering the finish. Issue with finishes, unless stated, which in some cases there are statements for these kinds of things, finishes can be as long or as short as they like. You know, they can dump it in the cask for 5 minutes. I don't know why you'd bother, but you could, in theory. What I'm getting from this is primarily... do you know what? If I was doing a blind tasting, and I'm not, but Malt Boxes at the minute, he started a series on that, and it's quite entertaining. You should go check it out. But if I was, and I was nosing this straight off the bat, I'd probably be like, is that a Glen Tucker's? It's got that kind of like generic Speyside. Now, the Dailuaine 16, if I'm almost certain that it's a sherry finish, again, it's not really had much in the way of an encounter with Dailuaine at all. So, you know, if I'm coming across as a complete novice, there's a reason for that. But hey, you know, you can't know everything, and that's fine. Because I say so. Because I'm trying to defend myself. Okay. Generically fruity. Maybe a tickle of honey, but let's see what it tastes like. The flavour has developed a little bit since I last tried it. It's still quite spicy. It's a little aggressive. For the ABV, it's 47.5, the ABV on this one. Based off of sort of the burn, not the Star Trek phenomenon, the mouth burn, you would be forgiven for thinking it's stronger. It's quite fusile and aggressive. However, blimey, yeah, there's elements of honey nut cornflakes, roasted pears, a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg in there. There's a little bit of like Christmas spice. There is a faint cough of sweetness to it. I know I was talking about honey nut cornflakes earlier. It's not quite the... You know there's a difference between the Kellogg's ones and like knockoff brands. The knockoff brands tend to be more corn and less honey, if you get me. So as it is with this, basically. There's an element of chalkiness about it. There's a strange kind of, you know, there's like Swizzle Matlow lollies, that kind of like sort of fake fruit chalk flavour, for want of a better way of putting it. It's just, it's a little uptight. It's not giving you too much. There's like a kind of cheap and nasty sake kind of a thing about it. It's predominantly just sort of boozy, for want of a better way of putting it. You know, as I know when you're doing tasting notes for these things, you know, you're supposed to be able to pick out 100 different things, but sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes there's just either what it's giving you, you're not able to properly discern because you're not quite gelling with it. That's a thing. Or sometimes there are characteristics about it that are so overwhelming you can't pick anything else out. That's also a thing. There's going to be people that disagree with me about that, and fair play. If everyone agreed, the world would be a boring place. Safer, possibly, but duller. Okay, I've stuck a little bit of water. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go a little heavier than that. There we go. I want it to break down a fair bit. I think it needs the favour. Okay. Close to cereal milk now. Sweet, little lactic. Still a fair bit of like green apples in there. There's still just a prickle. There's still quite a fusile element on the nose, which given that I've put a fair bit of water on that, is concerning at this stage. It's gone a little meaty. There's a strange savoury edge to it. Or am I meaty? It's possible it's me. As it's opening up a little bit, it's becoming a little more floral. There's a bit more kind of like a... almost like a... vegetal sweetness? You know, like... peas are described as sweet, like garden peas are described as sweet. You know, you wouldn't pop them as candy necessarily, although some people do, and these people are to be pitied. Man, I'm going to get demonetized or shut down or something for this one. It's a little grassy. It's a little, yeah, there's just kind of like fresh vegetables, freshly cut grass, a little bit of eucalyptus, bit of aloe vera hand soap in there. It's quite green, for want of a better way of putting it. That's got it. Vanilla, fresh apples and honey in porridge. Have you ever done that? Like apples and honey in porridge. It's quite a nice way to start the day. There's a little bit of cinnamon in there as well. There's an element of currants. Again, that kind of like natural sweetness element. It's not especially honeyed. I don't know where chocolate hazelnuts is coming from, because no. I'd say it's very fresh. Fruity, green. It's a little lacking in character. I don't know what I was expecting. I just think I was expecting more of anything it had to give me. This is just, it's almost like it doesn't really want to give you what it's got. I mean, the tasting it, rose water, no. Bergamot freshness, okay, maybe a hint of like an Earl Grey kind of a thing, maybe. Chocolate hazelnuts, no, just no. Rose water, very definite flavour. You know, if you give somebody something with rose water, they're going to know it's rose water. Like Turkish Delight, it's not like someone's going, is that rose? People are like, ugh, more often than not, because a lot of people do not like rose water. You know, a lot of people do not like that perfumey, floral flavour. Personally, big fan, but a lot of people not keen. Chocolate hazelnuts, again, no, very definite flavours to it, and just not getting it on this. It's quite a generic space cider, for want of a better way of putting it. I just took a sip, specifically being like, can I get rose water? Can I get chocolate hazelnut? The answer is no. They did not knock the, for me anyway. I would disagree with the tasting notes. If there's somebody watching this from Carn and you are fucking furious with me right now, fair, I get that sometimes. It's not hitting, I'm not loving it. I'm not loving it. It's a little uptight. It's not got a massive amount going on flavour-wise. It's perfectly palatable. You know, it's perfectly nice. You know, you will happily sip it. I don't know. Personally, I don't know what I was expecting from it. I just think I was expecting anything a little more definite. It's like everything it has to give you is a little uncertain and washed out. And I'm not a fan. There's more flavour when you add water. That's why I had that initial reaction of like, okay, there's more going on. But it's still just a little muted, jaded. And obviously I'm not an expert on this in any way, shape or form. But if I were to guess, I would say that the Sauternes finish was brief. because, again, Sauternes, really strong, definite flavour. It's a potent cask type to use, and it has imparted very little. It's maybe just taken the rough edges off of this one, I don't know. But it's just kind of made it kind of vanilla and blah. It is the whiskey equivalent of a filing cabinet. It's functional. It's not especially exciting, however. If you're going to go with the Dailuaine, I go for the Flora and Fauna over this. It's perfectly fine. It might be that it continues to develop. It might be a late bloomer, this one. It might take a while. We've been there before with aggressive malts. And actually, while I'm on the subject, I'd like to bring that up again. I mean, I finished it, so you know. It's not like, you know, trying to drink broken glass or something, you know, it's you know, perfectly serviceable. Would I buy a bottle again? No. I think that's the best thing I can say about that one, really. This is a bottle I've had on the go for at least 2 years. I want to say close to 3 at this stage. It was part of the Dailuaine All Particular range, the Elements collection. This one was water, and it's a Jura. Cask strength. Indie bottling. I got this because I wanted to see what Jura, without all the lipstick and all the rest of it on it, was like. And I was bitterly disappointed. Did not gel with it whatsoever. However, over the past few years, as you can see, I've continued to slowly chip away at it. And what would happen is I'll have a drink out of it and then leave it on the shelf for 6 months. Some of this has gone into blend stock. I've done, like, you know, house blends and handed them out as like little presents and stuff like that, which has meant that there's about that much left in the bottle. And it's been oxidising. Ruining, some people might say. About 3 weeks ago, I finished a shift. I needed a drink, as I often do when I finish working these days. I'm fine. And I was going to go towards, you know, a Lindor's or maybe a Mellow Corn, you know, something that's got a bit of heft to it. And then I was like, no, do you know what? Let's crack the Jura out again, because the last time I had it was quite a rough and ready, meaty, slightly oily kind of a dram, and I was enjoying it. The last time I had it, it was up on, not Carlton Hill. I don't drink whiskey on Carlton Hill, I do something else. What's the other one? Oh, the extinct volcano. What's it called, John? You've lived in Edinburgh for 5 years. Jesus Christ. I'm not doing well today. I was on a fucking hill somewhere in Edinburgh. That doesn't narrow it down. I could have been going to Sainsbury's in this city, to be fair. But and it was a fantastic, like, rugged outdoors kind of a whiskey. And if I had into it again, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that there was a sweeter side coming out to it. It had developed into a more comforting, rounded, more flavoursome dram than the one that I'd started with. Because I remember when I first started with this whiskey, I found it quite washy and uninteresting. There wasn't much happening. But over time, as it's oxidised and it's, you know, slowly been chipped away at, it's become a lot more just nice, for want of a better way of putting it. It's just become flavoursome and comforting, a little bit sweet. More saline notes coming out through it. It's become more interesting as time's gone on, but it's taken a very long time to get there. Like I said, I've had this bottle for 2.5, maybe 3 years now, and it's only now coming into its own. So this could take a while. But there we go, that's me done talking about a Dailuaine. Let me know down below what your take on indie bottlings is. Have you tried much Dailuaine in the past? Have you bought a bottle purely based off of, oh yeah, I quite fancy that, and then it's just not been what you thought it was going to be? Let me know down in the comments down below. There's links in the description to Patreon and Instagram and all that nonsense. Thumb this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you like to watch a man talk completely out of sequence about booze, because, I mean, that's my brand at this stage. And do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else.